Welcome back to the Real Estate Sitdown presented by Double B Homes and the Pemberton Home Team. This is episode 28. I am Blair Berg, and this is Jaden Millette. How you doing, Jaden?
Doing well, yourself?
Doing all right. I think I ate too much over Thanksgiving break, but...
Not to mention it's freezing outside.
Yeah, that today when I woke up and I think my thermostat said it was 5 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Don't love it. And it's funny because it shocks me every year that it's that cold.
Yeah.
But I've lived here most of my life, so I should get used to it by now.
Well, it's just that shock. Went from 40 to 5.
At the time of recording, today is Tuesday, November 28th, 2023, and the interest rate for a 30-year conventional loan is still at 7.3.
Not bad.
So technically a small decline from last week. I think it was 7.33 when we read it. But as we predicted, probably till the end of this year, we're probably going to be hovering around 7.3.
Yep.
So nothing new there. So we will dive right in. Today's first segment is going to be I Saw It Online. I wanted to play this clip because it actually combines a lot of things that we've been discussing on the show. And I think puts it into a really relatable way.
5% down, buy a multifamily property, guaranteed path for the everyday person to become a millionaire, maybe a multimillionaire. That's a powerful thing.
Once the interest rates go back down, the property values are going to explode.
Credit score wise, you only need a 620 credit score, max loan amount of just under 1.4 million for a fourplex. I mean, if you buy $1 million property, you do a cost seg study, you're probably going to have 35% depreciation. That's $350,000 you can use to offset your W-2 taxes. That's massive.
Yeah. So a lot of good information in that in a very short clip. We won't dive too much into the cost segregation stuff just because that's for a different discussion. A lot of stuff goes into that. But it's great for tax write-offs. I mean, Me personally, I own and live in a duplex. Got it for 5% down. And half of that can be a business write-off because the other half is a rental. But yeah, great program right now, 5% down. And that's usually my counter argument to anyone who says, no one can afford to buy a house right now. I think there are a lot of people who can't afford to buy a house right now if they want to get the single family home.
Yeah.
And again, obviously something in the system needs to change to make it more affordable. But for the time being, it's about how can you get in. And the multifamily house hacking route is the easiest way to, one, get into a home, and two, to build wealth.
Yeah,
because, I mean, the way that I'm doing it and the way they kind of described it in the clip was if you have a duplex and you rent out one unit, live in the other, you're most of the time, I'd say right now, if you have a duplex, you're probably not paying the home mortgage with the rent. Right now, the rent covers a little bit more than half of our mortgage, but... And this is what I say to a lot of first-time home buyers is if you're willing to do it, get into a fourplex. If you get into a quadplex, if you buy it correctly, those other 3 rents should be covering your mortgage. You should be getting paid to live.
You should be getting
Again, if you buy it correctly. But that is the easiest way to buy a home, build wealth. I mean, it's one of the many reasons I got into real estate in the first place.
Yep. It's simple.
Yeah. Do you have anything?
More doors.
Yeah. It's the easiest way to build up doors. Yeah. I mean, to expand on that, kind of our personal experiences, we want to keep doing that every couple of years. So
say more doors, more money.
Yeah. And when you're looking at just buying an investment property, generally you need to put about 20% down if it's just an investment. So our strategy for our first couple homes is buy a multifamily, live in it, and rent it out for that first year. Then at the end of that year, if rates are still good and we need the extra cash to buy the next one, do a cash out refinance, which hopefully interest rates are coming down. So next spring is kind of when we're eyeing buying a new place.
Yep.
Be able to cash out refi that, get a lower interest rate, pull some of that money out to buy our next one, buy another multifamily, rent that out, and kind of do that for 2, 3, 4 times.
It's not hard.
I mean, you could easily get 10 doors under your belt.
Yeah.
And
the money you save too from, like you said, the rent side of things, a little bit over half, tuck that money away for a couple of years, and then, like you said, cash out refi. It's pretty simple.
And like they said too, and we've talked about this, is that we've been warning a lot of our buyers who say they want to wait until the spring. When those interest rates come down, values are going to skyrocket again.
Yeah.
So it's good to get in. And I mean, like I said, if you buy and hold that for a long time, it's just going to appreciate. Again, there will be down years in the housing market, but we'll always be in a financial condition that we can hold through those times. Because as I've said before, in a down market, you didn't lose money. Just because your house went down in value for a couple of years, you didn't lose any money. It's not like someone went into your bank account and took cash out.
Right.
So to everyone out there who thinks you can't afford a home,
Yeah.
if you're willing to make some sacrifices, maybe space-wise, stuff like that, you can get into a home. When I hear people say, I can't afford to buy a home, what I'm hearing is, I can't afford to buy my dream home.
Yeah.
Which your first one's never going to be your dream home.
There's levels to this.
Exactly.
And if
Get
you
in,
don't-
worry about getting into that first stepping stone, then move up from there.
Yeah. You
That
can
single
be an
family.
average Joe, and if you start early enough, I'm not even going to say that, because there's people that are in their 30s right now that are starting on this trend. They work a 9-to-5 job, making an average salary,
Yeah.
but they do everything right, and by 50, they're multimillionaires, and their rent's being paid for, their bills are gone.
Yeah.
It's just not hard.
The easiest way to build wealth.
Easily.
Because the government's giving you money to invest. The stock market's not like that. You have to use your own money. The government is giving you money, literally, to buy assets. Moving on, we will go to the comment section. This first one we recently talked about. This is actually in response to a different comment of someone saying you have to be a millionaire to buy a house in this economy. And in that clip, I had mentioned rate buydowns as a way to make things more affordable.
Yep.
And I had a comment on that saying rate buydowns are rarely worth it unless you know you're going to be in that house for 7+ years. There are caveats to rate buydowns. I'm not saying that's always the solution. But what I like about rate buydowns in this environment where we're in right now is that like you're at 7.5. Let's say you did a 2-1 buydown. And now what we're seeing is rates are starting to come down.
Yeah.
So for the first year, you're paying that 5.5. Then the next year, paying 6.5. And then in that third year, if interest rates come down to 5%, 4.5%, well, now you can refinance down to that, and that 2-to-1 buy down helped you span that gap to get you there. And as we talked about before, they're still making sure you qualify at the 7.5%.
Yeah.
So even at the end of that 2 years, something drastic happens, and where interest rates are not down lower than they were, you still qualified for that 7.5.
So, I mean, I don't know, I guess what you would call it, but it's a short-term play for a potential long-term investment, realistically. Because either way, you're going to get to that, refinance point.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, you're still going to be at a point where it's comfortable. Because if you're not refinancing, chances are the rate is higher than what you even bought at.
Yeah.
If you're not refinancing, your rate is higher than 7.5, which in a way you're still winning.
Exactly. And that's what I've said before too, is that if you get to the end of that, exactly, and now it's at 8.5%, something went horribly wrong and now interest rates are 8.5%, well, yours is only going back to 7.5%. And I guarantee you that the house was cheaper than it would have been 3 years from then.
Yeah, I was going to say 2-to-1 buy down too. That's 3 years.
In another video clip that I put out called Why Do People Hate Real Estate Investors, we talk about how real estate investors buy properties that otherwise aren't being purchased, and they might be foreclosures. They're bringing down the home values of the other homes in the neighborhood, and they're really not usable. Right. Whereas if an investor comes in, buys it, flips it, and now they're adding to the home inventory, which is desperately needed right now because home inventory is so low. So they're doing a service that benefits everybody. We had a comment that was, siding with us, but puts it in good terms. If you have too many of those foreclosures in your neighborhood, then you're no longer living in a $350,000 house. True, that's not the investor's fault. I'd rather the banks not relax their lending standards to people with credit scores in the 500s. This puts the entire neighborhood at a higher risk to lose their equity. So what he's saying there is the investors buying up the foreclosures is good so that it doesn't take that value down. Because again, if you live in a house that you bought for $350,000 and then the other houses around it go into disrepair. They look like shit. It's going to drag your values down. So you'd rather have people come in and buy them up, fix them up, keep those values up.
Yeah.
And the second part to his comment is, yes, in the 2008, 2007, in that area when they were doing some subpar lending that got a lot of people into trouble, that got houses into disrepair because they were buying houses they couldn't afford. Then the houses would fall into disrepair because they couldn't afford to fix them up, couldn't even afford to live in them anymore. And then, then the whole neighborhood's losing their equity. So
We preached about it in the last episode. Why, if you work hard to buy a $350,000 house, why would you want that $90,000 house to just sit?
And then we will move along to FAQs.
Question I keep getting. What services should a listing agent provide?
And I like that you brought this up because I had a potential client reach out to me recently, and we had talked late summer, early fall about listing her home. And it was a referral from a great set of clients of mine that I love. But once I told her my rate, I said, hey, my commission's usually 6%. She thought that was too high, which is fine. It's not for everybody.
No.
And she went with a discount broker. Fine. So the house has now been on the market for 100 days. She called me over Thanksgiving break, and she's like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. We talked. I was like, yep, I got your info. Like, I remember these things. And I was like, yeah, did you ever sell that home in Eagan? She goes, no, it's been on the market. Well, now when we talked, it was like 95 days. But she's like, it was on the market for a long time, and I just don't think I'm getting very good service. And I was like, oh, that's not good. Can you kind of explain what's going on? And she's like, well, it's a family member of mine that lives out of state, and I looked it up, and they don't really do business in Minnesota that much. And
Classic.
yeah. So, and I could tell their buyer payout was 2.5%. I generally push for 2.7. I hadn't seen any advertising for the house. And I was looking at the pictures. Like, the pictures looked like nice enough. And she started asking me, like, how complicated would it be to cancel with my agent? And I said, well, it depends. You'd both sign a cancellation, but sometimes some agents will maybe want to get paid for the services they provided. If there was photography, whatever, they might want you to pay for that. And when I said that, she goes, well, I paid for my own photography. And I was like, you paid for your own photography? And she said, yep.
It's ridiculous.
And she's like, I was also in charge of any open houses I wanted because he didn't believe in open houses, and I paid for my own sign out front. And I was like, that's crazy.
Whoa.
And then I kind of said that, unfortunately, you kind of get what you pay for.
Right.
So she was asking me about, like, what services I'd provide, if we could meet up about maybe listing her home. And I said, hey, while you're signed with him legally, I'm pretty bound on what I can actually,
talk about
with you. But I can definitely see what I can do to help. But I guess to answer your question, what services should a listing agent provide? So, as a listing agent, you have a lot of things that, in my opinion, if you're doing your job, you should be doing. One is paying for professional photography, professional staging, flyers to put in the home, a for sale sign in the front yard, open houses if that client so chooses, video tours, putting the home online. That's the MLS, and then from the MLS it goes to Zillow.com, Realtor.com, Homes.com, etc. Mailers, sending those out to your database, pushing the property to your database. As we talked about being part of a larger team, we have thousands of people on our database with criteria that if the home matches that, it automatically gets pushed to them. Putting it out on my social media, and as you can tell, I'm pretty active on social media, so I have no problem doing that. And then a good comparative market analysis to help you price your home. Again, the comparative market analysis, the CMA. Again, it's up to the seller what they want to list it at, but I would prepare CMA to show you what I think it will go for. And that is really, all that stuff happens before the sale.
Yep.
Once you get under contract from all that advertising and everything like that, then it's my job to help negotiate deals.
Right.
And I'm handling all the negotiating all the way until it actually closes. So we're talking inspection items, seller paid closing costs, all those kinds of things. So when you are interviewing potential listing agents, ask, obviously ask, how they're being compensated, but ask what you're getting for it. And you should be getting these things, and I'm sure there's some that I'm missing. But make sure you're getting the bare minimums.
Ask to see it too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about most agents, but when I go to a listing appointment, I'll bring statistics based off my last couple listings.
Yep. Yeah, and I didn't even mention, you want an agent who's pressuring other agents to leave feedback, providing you with that, providing you with showing statistics, how many showings you're getting.
Oh, yeah.
How many, just clicks it's getting online. You want someone who can provide you all that information. So, again, beware the discount broker. Get what you pay for.
Yep. Simple.
So, Jaden, what are the items that provide the best ROI that a seller can update in their home before they sell the home?
There's obviously a ton of different things you can do to bring more value to your property, to obviously get more return on your investment of selling your home. However, there's going to be some things that are more lucrative, obviously, to spend your time and money on, right? So the first big one that we see a lot is an HVAC system. HVAC systems in 2023 were proven to give 103% on average for ROI when you're selling your home. It's going to be around $7,000 to $13,000, obviously, depending on what labor was and everything like that. I mean, that's a couple $100, right? That's bringing you money back in your pocket, not to mention potentially getting your property sold quicker, right? Because you go into a house, just put yourself in the buyer's shoes. If you go into a house and you see brand new HVAC systems, everything's shiny, you're not like, well, that's going to break down in a couple of years. Great, I got to fix that. When then the house next door is the same layout, same everything, but they got a brand new HVAC system. It helps. Mm-hmm. Another big one is a new garage door. That one is also at 103%. So minimally, this one's going to be a little bit cheaper. It's right around that $1,000 to $1,500 range for like a normal single family two car stall garage. But again, that's still going to be potentially a couple $100. Not to mention your curb appeal goes up like crazy. Another big one that people probably don't notice, and I know us agents see it all the time, is your front door. Your new front door can add about 101% ROI on your property. Now, again, that's a little bit more minimal, $500 to $700 probably for a pretty decent door. However, again, with the curb appeal, you have somebody walking into your house or your property sold, and you see that brand new front door, the knobs work, there's nothing loose, nothing like that. I mean, that's a huge first impression positive that people don't understand sometimes on what that really can do to sell your property. Yeah.
This has been another episode of the Real Estate Sitdown. As always, please keep commenting on the videos, as have been fun to dig into. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss an episode. And I gotta start. I gotta end with okay. All right.
We got it.
Alrighty. Well, as always, keep commenting on the videos. Love digging into. Yep. All right. As always, keep commenting on the videos. Love digging into those. And please like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Don't miss an episode. And this has been another episode of the Real Estate Sit Down. We'll see you next time.